We're back. There was once a terrible pair who devised a plan to take over the world with a malicious scam. But they fell flat on their face and became an utter disgrace, and now they're trying to save face however they can. As you all know, this past week has been a flurry of headlines and coverage of the seemingly never-ending shenanigans of Meghan and Harry of Montecito. It all started with the surprise release of their brand new website, Sussex.com, failed rebranding attempt number, what are we on? 2,154. And in my opinion at least, an obvious ploy to distance themselves from the failed Archwell Foundation, the African Park scandal, and numerous other things, because we all know Meghan and Harry are not short on scandals. And they're doing this while also attempting to reinforce their pretty much non-existent royal links at this point with the audacious use of Meghan's royal crest along with the ever ubiquitous royal titles, of course. And look, yes, the crest was made for her, but I think we can all agree it was never intended to be used in such a manner. A cursory scroll through the website demonstrates that it is a malignant narcissist's haven, an apparent replacement for social media where they can update us at will about their vanity and ego projects without suffering from the comments and criticism that the rest of us thick-skinned peasants have to deal with in the online world. I mean, for a couple who likes to pretend that they're so unbothered living their best lives in the snowy mountain peaks of Canada, their constant clapbacks at the most benign of commentaries speaks volumes about just how bothered and thin-skinned they are. It also comes with a nauseating hagiography section, which must have been written on opposite day, seeing as it describes the exact opposite of who Meghan and Harry truly are. Now, there has been a lot of uproar about this Sussex.com use of the crest and basically going against the Queen's wishes 4 years ago by monetizing their royal status. But as someone who's been covering this topic for 3 years at this point, in addition to recent developments, which we will get to towards the end of the video, I believe that all of this uproar is much ado about nothing. Now, I've already stated that I believe that Archwell.com .org has been replaced in favor of Sussex.com to reinforce royal connections, etc., etc. But as with everything else Meghan and Harry do, I also believe that it was clearly a deliberate move by them to incite a visceral reaction from the press and the public, which they always manage to do impeccably. I mean, if they have any talent, it would be that. Now, this was done right on cue, right on time for the countdown to the Invictus Games, which will be held next year in Canada, which of course has maximized coverage of Meghan and Harry while they were in Whistler, Vancouver a few days ago. And if that was a ploy to highlight the Invictus Games, then I think we can all say it was a resounding fail, since as per usual, as has been the case since Meghan appeared in her very first Invictus Games in 2017, it's basically become the Meghan and Harry show. And this time was no different. And all those reporters constantly taking the time to praise Harry for the Invictus Games and praise his involvement and say that this is his legacy, need I remind everyone that it was the Royal Foundation, the palace staff actually, who set up the Invictus Games for Harry to become a face of. And Prince William and Princess Catherine were very much involved. They basically handed it to him as his little project to keep him occupied, because otherwise he'll go strip and get naked in Las Vegas. And that's one of the least problematic things he could get up to. I submit to you that if Harry actually cared about the Invictus Games and the veterans, then he would never have allowed Meghan to essentially turn it into her own catwalk, and conducting an interview that consisted of questions about Harry and, of course, his family, how much he loves them, and how illnesses can serve to reunite.
How did you get the news that the king was ill?
I spoke to him.
And what did you do next?
I jumped on a plane and went to go and see him as soon as I could.
Oh, what a good boy you are, H. Would you like a gold star on your wrist for that, H? I mean, talk about pre-approved questions to pat yourself on the back. I guess Prince Philip's illness and the Queen's illness and the King's initial benign enlarged prostate illness and whatever's wrong with Princess Catherine, I guess those didn't qualify as illnesses that could have potentially reunited the family. And what of Thomas Markle? I know we always say this, but pretty sure 2 heart attacks and a serious stroke that stripped him of the ability to talk qualify as serious illnesses that could reunite the family. Or does that rule only apply to royalty? Speaking of Markle, can someone please tell me why Meghan Markle insists on attending these events? I mean, if she wants to be at the Invictus Games, the least she can do is put on Invictus gear and promote it, rather than putting on Hermes and Calvin Klein, and I'm not pulling these names out of my behind. These are designer brands that she decided to wear to these 3 days, you know, with veterans who could potentially never afford these items. I mean, is she even gonna try to ever pretend she's actually there for the veterans and not for herself? Granted, the woman doesn't have an athletic bone in her body, which isn't necessarily her fault. I know many people who just aren't athletically inclined. That's not necessarily a problem. But then why show up? If you're not gonna participate, if you're not gonna promote it, why are you there? Other than to look like a deer in headlights every time the attention is not solely focused on her. I mean, she's distracting. People say she's necessary for the Invictus Games. She brings attention to it. In what way? In what planet? I mean, I know I'm lost beyond Pluto, but tell me in the comments below, all you folk back on Earth, is that the effect that she's having on the Invictus Games? Or is it the exact opposite? All this talk about her effortlessly slipping into royal mode and having first lady vibes. What? Now, I said earlier that all of this uproar is much ado about nothing. And you might be there, brandishing your fist at me, you know, at the screen technically, and shaking your head in disagreement, wondering, how could this be much ado about nothing? They're disrespecting the late queen. They're disrespecting the monarchy. They're monetizing their royal connections. And yes, I would say yes to all of that. But the sky's blue as well. I mean, we don't wake up every day exclaiming that. This is what they've been doing non-stop for the last 4 years. I mean, let's say 5 if we're going to count that whole South Africa debacle. How is this any different to when they first attempted to launch Sussex Royal 4 years ago, or when they conducted that Oprah Winfrey interview, which they thought would be their introduction to stardom, or when they released Netflix and Spare? Monetizing their royal connections is the only weapon they have in their arsenal. And it's been used so much that it has gone entirely blunt. It has no effect anymore. People aren't falling for it. It didn't work 4 years ago when they still had their reputation and credibility relatively intact. So why on earth would it work now? And you know what? I strongly suspect that they both know this by now, and specifically Meghan, because Harry's just a hapless fool who follows her around doing her bidding. After the last few years of observation and commentary, I firmly believe that they are both trolls who simply do things to elicit strong negative reactions from the public. Meghan is banking on it because it's the only thing at this point keeping her in the headlines. And to these types, as we've said before multiple times, any attention, negative attention is better than no attention. Other than trolling, Meghan Markle in particular specializes in something else that we've heard from, people who knew her through the grapevine, Manifestation. Rumor has it that she manifested her relationship with Prince Harry after all. So if it worked then, why wouldn't it work again, she thinks. And based on the latest headlines that have been floating about them attempting to weasel their way back into the royal fold on a temporary / part-time basis, you know, the whole arrangement that the Queen turned down 4 years ago, Meghan, tiresome, stubborn creature that she is clearly, assuming these reports are true, trying to work that manifestation magic again. A quick scroll through Google will reveal Prince Harry willing to return to royal duties amid King Charles's cancer. Britain's Prince Harry willing to take temporary royal role while King is ill. Prince Harry willing to take on larger role amid King's cancer battle. Prince Harry would be willing to return to his royal duties if King Charles asked him to. Prince Harry willing to return to royal duties to help King Charles. You get the gist. Where have we seen this behavior before? Only a few months ago, if you remember, when they so ever magnanimously declared to the world that they would be more than willing, more than happy to attend Christmas at Sandringham. Remember that? Except it didn't work then, and based on the palace's response to these rumors, it ain't gonna work now either. Now, if these reports are to be believed, because you guys know how it is with the media, we don't know what to believe. The palace's response to all of this? No. No, thank you. That won't be necessary. And with Prince William pretty much the most dominant working royal at this point, he's just not gonna have it. I truly think that with the monarchy in Prince William's hands in the future, long live King Charles, all will be well. And by that I mean the door will be firmly shut to the likes of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and they know it. That's why they're trying so hard, in my opinion, to skirt their way back in now while there's still a chink in the door for them to slither on through. Also, I thought you had to run for your literal lives when you escaped the palace in the dead of night all those years ago. But you see what I mean by this is all much ado about nothing? They've got nothing. They say they cannot be broken. Well, I'm here to say that they already are. And I'm not talking about the self-destruction that they have indulged in over the past few years. I'm talking right down to a human level. What else would you call two of the most privileged people who can't seem to manage a moment of happiness, contentment, and satisfaction? The way I see it, the royal family has won the war. A war that they've been dragged into, one that was waged by Meghan and Harry, with their first diabolical move being that Oprah Winfrey interview at the height of BLM, which they thought would be their masterpiece. But it didn't take long for the rest of the world to realize. And I'm sure in the back of their minds somewhere they've realized this too. What was meant to be their greatest masterpiece ended up being their biggest demise. And the royal family barely had to lift a finger. And c'est la vie. You know, I always like to make videos that have a bigger message. Big message here is don't be an evil POS, because karma's real and it will always find a way to come bite you. You know, the way cats bite, where it hurts. I'll see you in the next one. Don't stress.